Welcome, Cast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.
Windies, 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 Windies. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the unstoppable juggernaut that is the West Indies cricket team are back. We're live. I don't even know. I don't even know what to say.
Who's next? Who is next, Mash? West Indies, against all odds, have destroyed Papua New Guinea in Providence. The miracle in Providence. What a year for West Indies. West Indies are back, Mash.
We're back. We're back indeed. The World Cup. We're here to get what's rightfully ours. We got the W. We're well on our way. West Indies are going to win the World Cup, Santokie.
West Indies are back, Mash. Tears in my eyes. What a performance, Papua New Guinea. Many fancied them against, the underdogs, West Indies. In the end, we prevailed. We showed our true character. Darren Sammy has brought it back for West Indies, Mash.
100%, 100%. But no one expected us to start on that positive trail, Santokie. But you know what? It's a very, very important game to dissect. We've only had 2 games in this World Cup. Obviously, the USA chased down 190 something against Canada in the first game early this morning, UK time, and then we've just seen West Indies about an hour ago defeat Papua New Guinea by 5 wickets. And let's be real, Santokie. As much as we started with a bit of a joke intro, a win is a win. Yeah. A win is a win, and yes, we can get into the whys and the why nots and how it was shaky and it wasn't convincing. But just before we press live, something came into my head. Argentina won the World Cup, didn't they? And didn't they lose the first game against Saudi Arabia? Am I making it up in my head? They did, right?
Yeah.
So if we'd gone on to lose it, it wouldn't have been the end of the world. And I would have used that reference point to say that sometimes, in fact, actually, when Argentina got to the final of the World Cup in 1990. I think they lost the opening game to Cameroon, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So there's plenty examples of sports and World Cups where the team that goes on to the final or the team that goes on to win doesn't actually start the tournament well. And it's almost like they have to have their worst performance at the beginning to get them back on track and remind them that, boy, you either play your best in every single game or it's knockout cricket out here. That's the only positive I can really come with, Santokie. What are you saying?
Yeah, no, and I think, to be honest, Mash, that's a big positive, because in the last World Cup, we lost to Scotland in the first game. So immediately you're up against the odds. The main thing is we got the win. Obviously, it was a nervy win. Many would be expecting us to win quite easily. But if you want to take a different spin on it, as you said, this allows some reflection to look at what went wrong, allows us not to get too complacent. If we would have beat Papua New Guinea by 10 wickets or, over 100 runs, maybe the confidence would have been like, okay, we don't need to change anything. We don't need to do anything. We're good for this tournament. So this has allowed us to reflect, and it's a warning sign, because we came very, very close, particularly when we got to about the 17th over. We still needed 30-odd runs before Russell and Chase started hitting some boundaries. So it was a wake-up call. And what's important now, Mash, we got the win, as you said, first target achieved. Is how we come in the second game now. Is it against Uganda on Sunday? Next Sunday, that performance, we don't want to see a repeat. We don't want to see another nervy, edgy win. It should be a straightforward, comfortable win for West Indies, having spent the next 6 days working on what needs to improve and learning some lessons from this game against Papua New Guinea. But it also goes without saying, obviously, without sounding too condescending, credit to Papua New Guinea. They kept their discipline in the bowling, particularly with the 3 spinners they were confident. As I said, towards the last 4 or 5 overs, they sensed that they could get a win. And we talk a lot about West Indies, how we don't have facilities and the resources of a lot of big teams. Papua New Guinea, compared to West Indies, don't have any resources as well. So as much as we'll say it's a poor performance from West Indies, we also do have to give some credit for Papua New Guinea, many of whom were playing, their first ever T20 World Cup game.
So I'm going to pick. I've actually got a lot of points I want us to try and get through. And people, this show is going no longer than 40 minutes more. We're definitely locking this off at 9 o'clock. In the Discord group, and if there's anybody there's already 200 of you in the live, it's always a way, Santokie, when we have a crap performance or we come close to losing, better people descend on the live show.
Listen, if we lost to Papua New Guinea, you know, the connection would blow. We'd have over about 10,000 people tuning in.
But listen, we got 204 people already in the live. Like, share, subscribe, like up the live, oil them up, everything. But
you know what, Mash? Let's start. You know what? Before we get into the action, let's start. Let's take it from the top, because the first thing is, obviously, the scenes from Guyana. The stadium wasn't full for the match being played at 10:30 a.m. local time. Now, from my perspective, having a host nation for a big T20 World Cup playing your first match, I know it's West Indies' only early game, but your first match at 10:30 in the morning on a Sunday, Mash, that's not really an optimal kind of setting you want to see T20 cricket being played in for the host in their first game.
And do you know what's quite interesting? The remainder of our games in the tournament are all, night matches in terms of, they're night matches in the Caribbean. Yeah. They're like early morning matches in the UK. Like, I think all of our remaining matches start at 1:30 in the morning, UK time. Why do you think, and obviously the USA got the prime time one. They got the late night match. And maybe, do you think it was about, we want to start this tournament off with a bang by making it prime time in the United States, which means the West Indies have to get the early morning game rather than the other way round? Do you think that the emphasis was the USA, we want a full stadium for the USA game, so they have to get the night match? West Indies just have to suffer. Because let's be honest, Santokie, they could have put that game anywhere in the Caribbean at 10:30 in the morning, and people just aren't coming out that early. People have to cook up for lunchtime. People are going church, maybe. Like, it's 10 o'clock sports time. 10 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday is just not a sports time in the Caribbean. So I find it very weird that, given we're co-hosts, we got given that time slot. What do you think was behind that?
Yeah, it's a strange one. Logically, the morning game today should have been another America game. And then tonight you have the game in Guyana to kick off the sort of West Indies leg, the Caribbean leg. So it's a strange one. As you said, there's loads of different reasons. I know if we held a T20 game, World Cup game in England at 10:30, it'd probably be a sellout, but that's because of the population. I think if you look in Guyana, pretty much you're expecting about a fifth of Georgetown to show up at 10:30 in the morning if you wanted the stadium full out. To get from Berbice to the stadium is about 2 hours. You'd have to set off at like 7:30 in the morning to make it. On a Sunday as well, which is a quiet traditional rest day. And also, Mash, as much as it's West Indies, no disrespect, it's against Papua New Guinea as well. So that in itself as well means people aren't going to necessarily show up. So I wasn't surprised to see not a sellout crowd. I know Guyana has a reputation in CPL for bringing the lime, having a sellout stadium, but for that circumstances where it's 10:30 on a Sunday, this is the most we could expect. As you say, I'm sure a lot of people may disagree, but most stadiums in the Caribbean, I'd imagine, would have the similar sort of turnout if you held it at 10:30 in the morning on Sunday. So it was strange in terms of trying to build up momentum for West Indies, the home tournament, to have it so early in the Caribbean. But as we said, it's the last morning game we'll play. Going forward from here, night games, and we'll definitely see a bigger atmosphere, sellout crowds for those ones.
I need to see what are the remaining games in the tournament that are 10:30 in the morning. And I know a couple of people have put in the chat that, well, it was for the Indian TV audience. That's why there's 10:30 games. But Santokie, it doesn't bode well that if West Indies can't fill a stadium for 10:30 in the morning, other than England being in Barbados, Antigua, and so on and so forth, and obviously India are in the United States, there's not going to be many games that have more than maybe 300 people if we're lucky for a 10:30 game, if it's not involving one of the big lot.
Yeah, and I think that was something the Guyana government had said, because obviously Guyana got awarded 5 games, but I think the next game is Uganda against Papua New Guinea, I think, is the next game in Guyana. And obviously, how many people are going to turn up for that in Guyana? So again, it was a confusing one, Mash, and not the best start for West Indies to kick off their campaign. Obviously, no excuses, but you'd imagine a sellout crowd getting behind the team will probably have galvanized them slightly a bit more in their first game.
Yeah, and it is worth pointing out as well, the crowd did grow as the day went on, but then that would be to be expected. People are coming out their house about midday-ish, so that's just a normal kind of Caribbean thing for the crowd to grow as the game goes on. Now, let's unpick one point, Santokie, and this is the point of the show where people are going to start saying, "Oh, you two are too negative." But for me, everything I'm about to say is just facts upon facts upon facts. We won that game, Santokie, and a win is a win. But does this, by my reckoning, this puts pressure on us to have to beat both New Zealand and Afghanistan. Because if we only beat one of those two teams, assuming we beat Uganda, if we only beat one of those two teams, it is very likely that whoever comes second in the group is going to come second by net run rate. Because you have to assume that New Zealand are going to beat Papua New Guinea and Uganda. Afghanistan are going to beat Papua New Guinea and Uganda. So then those games between the three of us, everyone's got to win one of them. And if there's a tie, wait, does that make sense? No, if everyone won one, there might be a tie, if that makes sense, right? Is there a worry in the back of your head, Santokie, that we should have on paper, and this is where I'm not doing you've got to give credit to Papua New Guinea. Okay, I hear all that. They certainly showed us once again that associate cricket is getting better. West Indies aren't significantly above the level of associate cricket. We've been saying this. Okay, they showed us that. Well done to them. But who in their right mind, Santokie, even me, who's often accused of being negative, who in their right mind thought it was going to be that close? Who in their right mind? And this game, even Carlos Brathwaite was saying it at half time, right? At the innings changeover, he was going, yeah, the West Indies will want to try chase this down in about 12 overs to boost the net run rate. So I'm not hearing anybody trying to switch up the script now and pretend like a win is just a win. Where's the net run rate? That was the whole point of this game. So do you genuinely believe, Santokie, that New Zealand and Afghanistan are going to struggle as much as we did in terms of net run rate to beat this side?
No, I definitely don't. But on that topic of net run rate, I just think we need to get the wins. Once you start thinking about net run rates, you're almost making an assumption we're going to get enough points. For me, it's just about getting the wins and trying to get as many runs as we can. But we can't focus too much on the net run rate. Ideally, we got to target just getting the wins, I think. But as you said, it was quite funny to see, obviously, the commentators talking about West Indies at halftime at the interval, trying to chase this down quick time. These times we were like 60 for 3 after 10 overs. Struggling out here to some part-time medium pace from Papua New Guinea, at Providence Stadium. So again, it just goes to show you can't be too complacent as well. But I think, Mash, I don't think New Zealand or Afghanistan, their players wouldn't watching this game for sure. They won't take Papua New Guinea lightly, and I don't think we'll see it as come as close. For me, I'm targeting probably that New Zealand game. New Zealand don't have a stronger T20 outfit as we've known them to have in recent years. They've got an aging squad. For me, I'm targeting that for the win. Afghanistan's always going to be tough, but really and truly, Mash, I'm still thinking West Indies should be able to come out of this group in theory.
In theory, yes, but now do you see though, Santokie? Before this tournament started, I've maintained it all the way through. I'm not about to change my mind now. Success to me was always just getting out of this group. And now we've had game one where PNG have run us much closer than anybody could have expected. I'm still maintaining success for the West Indies is getting out of this group. Anything after getting out of the group to me is still a bonus. What are you saying, Santokie? You still sticking to semi-finals?
Yeah, semi-final, man. Cool, semi-final out here. That'll be our next morning game, 10:30 a.m. against India in the semi-finals. I think, Mash, it's a tricky one because if you're looking at it logically, yeah, I agree. Based on the last 2 World Cups, success is getting out of this group. However, the thing is, like we all say on the show, this is by the fans, for the fans. So for me, with my fan cap on, I'm obviously thinking West Indies as well. Surely we can get to the semi-finals as well. So it's a mix between that. I'm still optimistic, that we didn't lose today. So I'm hoping we can build on that. But, Sunday's going to be a tense watch, What is it, 1:30 a.m. in the UK against Uganda? Because, boy, if we're struggling
I'm going to have to wake up, I'm going to have to wake up for it. There was me thinking, we'll smash PNG today, and then I can just sleep through Uganda because that'll be light work as well. Now I've got to wake up and sweat over that game, Santo.
But you know what, this thing, like some people in the comments are saying, like, oh, it's far-fetched to think we're going to get to semi-finals. You alluded to it in football. We've seen it in cricket as well. No one has a perfect tournament. No one generally comes out and wins all their games en route to win the tournament. You have to have setbacks, and often we've seen teams that do have setbacks early on in the group stages kind of build on from that. So I still don't think it's too far-fetched to say West Indies can make the semi-finals.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, like I say, first game, there's a long time to go in this tournament, much less even in this group stage. Long time to go. Let's hope they've learnt their lessons. Let's hope we come strong in the second game. But again, let's keep picking some things that we saw in this game today, Santokie. At one point, sorry, at the end of the power play, Papua New Guinea were 36 for 3, and we were 34 for 3, in fact, and we were well on top. And it looked like at that stage of the game, yeah, we're going to bowl these men out for under 100. That's what I was thinking. I was like, yeah, we're going to bowl. I never thought they'd bat 20 overs. I was like, we're going to bowl these men out for 100. We've come with energy. The crowd, it's not full yet, but they're up. We're looking like every over we're going to get a wicket. Even at 10 overs, Santokie, they were 57 for 4. And I was like, these men are just scratching. They can't even really get the ball off the square. Even if we don't bowl them out, they're not going to make much over 100 if they even get to 100. By the time they ended their innings, Santokie, they made 136, I think it was. I think, personally, that our bowling in the final 5 overs was shocking.
Yeah.
Papua New Guinea went at 8 and over in the final 5 overs. Now, put in mind, Santokie, that by the time they got to the final 5 overs, they'd lost their top order. Their top order was gone. Their mid-top and middle order was gone, and they still batted at 8 runs and over in the final 5 overs. I also feel, Santokie, that from about overs 9, 10 onwards, we went. This is my personal view. I could be wrong, but I feel like we went through the motions as if the wickets were just gonna come. Not that we were aggressively going to go after them. And I was watching it just thinking, it feels like we're just bowling. We're not bowling necessarily with the intent of let's kill this game off. We're bowling as if these men are shit. They're bound to give a wicket away. Obviously, no international side surely plays a game like that. But maybe what I'm getting at is I didn't think our body language was ruthless enough from the halfway stage onwards. I just felt like we expected it to happen rather than going in for the kill. That could be naive, but that's how I felt, Santokie.
Yeah, no, I think that's a valid point. First 10 overs, especially Akil Hussain bowling the 2 in the power play, there's a lot of energy. He was getting a lot of movement on the pitch, making most of the wind at Providence. As you said, Papua New Guinea were struggling. What were they, 36 after 10 overs? So it looked like it was just
34 after the power play, 57 for 4 after 10.
Yeah, so 57 for 4 after 10. So like you said, you're looking, especially with their lower order, you're looking to bowl them out pretty quickly. So I just think West Indies took their foot off the gas. The last 3-4 overs in particular, Papua New Guinea ran very well, but we allowed them to do that. We allowed them to take a lot of twos and build it up. And then it summed it up with the last ball of the innings, Alzari's no ball as well. Thankfully, it didn't come off for many runs because that could have made a difference in the result of it.
Oh my God, yeah, I forgot about that, you know. Yeah,
listen, there's two game changers. We'll get onto the second one after this, but the first one was that no ball. If that had gone for a 6, this run chase is a little bit tighter. So again, that showed sort of the slackness of it all. So I just felt there wasn't a lot of, it didn't feel like they were playing a knockout sort of game, because really and truly, if West Indies lost this, you're thinking they're out of the tournament, basically. It's going to be hard to come back from this. So 100%. They weren't playing it as if it was a knockout game. Obviously, there were some moments. Waston Chase done a good bit of fielding for the catch off Alzari Jones' bowling. But generally, there was a moment where Brandon King had a misfield. That there wasn't a lot of energy. Didn't feel like no one was galvanizing the side. I didn't really see much of Rovman around as well. So it did feel like they thought that the wickets would just land on them, basically. They would be able to bowl Papua New Guinea out straightforward. And then when Papua New Guinea, towards the end, even because it wasn't a mammoth total, they kind of got complacent there and just let Papua New Guinea run the twos and build up a total which could have easily been defended in the end by Papua New Guinea if they'd have been disciplined in the last 3 overs. So yeah, a lot of complacency. But as we said at the top of the show, Mash, that's something to learn from. I'm sure going forward, even against Uganda on Sunday, we're not going to see the same level of complacency. I don't think Darren Sammy or Rothman Powell would let it happen in the next game.
You would hope so. And it's not next on my list of talking points, but you just said it, so I want to pick up on it. Running the 2, Santokie. We're going to get to our innings properly in a few minutes. But that was one of the biggest differences I noted about the PNG approach when they were struggling versus our approach. Yes, I know. Put it this way. And again, people in the chat, if you saw differently, by all means, correct me if you think we're chatting nonsense. By the way, there's 424 of you in the live. Love that. Like up the video, share. 432, in fact. Like up the video, share the video, subscribe. Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
More people in the live than that Providence,
That's yeah, if the 432 of you have gone to Providence, maybe we would have won the match easily. Now you're here listening to us two instead. But Santokie, running the 2s, I felt that we only showed real urgency at the crease when Dre came to the crease. And by what I mean by urgency is up until Dre come into the crease. Like, I think when Dre, someone will correct me, I'm sure, but when Dre came to the crease, at one point it was like 50 something off 32 balls, which in T20 cricket is relatively straightforward. Hold on. Stephen Cox says this is by far the worst podcast ever. Cheers, Stephen. Love that.
I like, share, and subscribe, Stephen.
Yeah, make sure you like, share, and subscribe after this comment, Stephen. But yeah, what was I saying? It's only when Dre came to the crease, I think we needed 50 something off 30 something, which is relatively straightforward in T20 cricket. But the way we were losing wickets, we were fretting a bit. And Dre did something that immediately showed me, okay, we're going to be fine. He just started running twos. He started batting it into spaces, usually like the mid-wicket region or past extra cover, and just running hard and calling twos. And it was only at that point I thought, wait a minute, why is it taking us so long to just turn ones into twos and work the field? And it reminded me, Santokie, of the World Cup when Netherlands beat us by just running twos, just showing urgency at the crease. And I just want to remind the team, we don't always have to, I know it's our strength, but sometimes your strength can be your weakness, because if you're just relying on boundary hitting and the fact that we've got so many power hitters, all it takes is what happened today. One power hitter comes in, fails to do the job. Next power hitter comes in, goes for a big dunce shot, fails to do a job. And then all of a sudden you're looking at a target, which you're like, wait a minute, we actually have to just work the ball around and turn ones into twos so that when we do hit the boundaries, it doesn't become such a hard equation where it's just like boundaries or nothing else. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, and I think the perfect scenario that encapsulated it is in our chase. Brandon King, I think, had 4 dot balls before he gave his wicket away. The 5th ball, he just swung as if the game didn't allow for singles or twos. He just swung at it, and as soon as he swung, he knew he was out. It was because it was that mentality, boundary or nothing, basically. I know in the past, previously, that's been sort of the much heralded tactics we used, go for the boundaries. But you've got to run the ones and twos in T20 cricket. Someone in the chat said we had 50 dot balls in our chase, which is believable if that's the case. Just because we weren't playing the singles and twos, and it's not smart T20 cricket to do that. So you put yourself under more pressure to hit boundaries. And this side as well, we don't have. I know we've got powerful batters. We still don't have boundary clearers of the likes of a Chris Gale, a Pollard, that kind of thing. So it adds more pressure to the side. 54 dot balls, so actually more. So that's what 9 overs of dot balls. Basically, which is crazy when you think of basically half the innings is dot balls there, basically, which is mad. So that'll be interesting to see if that's something that, I'm sure the coaching team will look at that and in their analysis of the game, and that's something we need to work on. But Mash, let's go into the chase. So Papua New Guinea, what did they post in the end? 136 for 8. Obviously, it's one of those totals where you almost say, like, as a token, it's something to defend. Realistically, we weren't expecting it to be close. People were talking about the net run rate. West Indies come out to bat. Obviously, before we get into the chase, though, Mash, let's talk about the selection. No Shea Hope. Was that something that surprised you, not seeing him in the 11?
Yes and no. So I thought they should have played Shea. And actually, the way the game panned out is exactly why I thought they should have played Shea. Because I was like, what? And in fact, those of you who've watched the video I did on what I thought the starting lineup should be, I think last time I checked, it was like 15K. So big up everyone who watched that. One of the reasons I advocated for Shea playing is I made the point that Shea is who you want everyone else to bat around, because you know that when you have a big hitting team, people are just going to throw their hand away in crisis. Remember, in all of this stuff where people have been boasting about, we beat South Africa 3-0, laying down Australia, beat England last year, beat India last year. Everyone's been chatting about it all, and that's cool. But the problem is, and again, people have been watching the shows who come to the Monday Night Live shows. I'm consistent, so I'll say it again. It's one thing to win in bilateral, Santokie. It's another to perform under pressure in a win or go home situation in the World Cup. And this game was exactly what I was talking about. What happens when the pressure is on top? Pressure bust pipe, right? Yeah. Now, the best player for us with the bat was Roston Chase. Unsurprisingly, because like Shea Hope, he's probably the only other player in the squad who you trust to be like, just rotate strike. Just rotate strike and try and make it up at the back end. The phrase that I like to use is take the drama out of the situation. Is Shea and Roston are the two you'd trust most to not make situations become dramatic. In the video I did about the starting 11, I said there's an argument to say you put both Shea and Roston in the same side. Obviously, lots of people said, no, you can't do that because you're taking out a big hitter. So, Santokie, let me throw it to you. Never mind whether Shea should have played or not. Can you have too many big hitters and not enough players like a Shea and is having one of Shea and Roston enough? Or did today's performance show you why you might need two on slow, low wickets like Providence?
Yeah, I think if you're talking slow, low wickets, yeah, because you need players who can play the situation. I think it's very telling, Mash. If you think about our top six, only Roston Chase is the only one who's played Test cricket or first-class cricket. And he sort of showed the ability to play that situation where you're playing with patience, not going for big hits. He did hit 6s and 4s when needs be, but generally he rotated strike and he played a sensible innings. I think in Guyana, a Shea Hope would have been perfect for this situation. He's obviously used to playing there as well because of the CPL, Guyana, Amazon Warriors and everything like that. But playing to the situation in low-scoring thrillers, I think the average at Providence, average score is 160 or 155 or something. So you're never going to get massive 200-plus scores like we've seen in the IPL at Providence. So for that situation, I think you could fit in the two players of that similar style of Chase and Hope. Obviously, different pitches. St. Lucia, which is going to be a bit more quicker, you'd imagine it might not necessarily be the case. But for Providence, definitely, Mash. And I think Hope was someone that was missing. It's interesting because on commentary, I don't know if you heard it, they alluded to the fact that they didn't think Papua New Guinea were going to play 3 spinners. They thought it was just going to be 1. So that might have been a rationale as behind.
Wait, who thought they weren't?
The commentator said that was what Sammy had said to them beforehand.
No, but and I say this out of respect to Darren Sammy. Any team that plays West Indies, you just have to play at minimum. You have to play 2 spinners at the bare minimum. Afghanistan are going to bowl 16 overs of spin at us. Uganda have 4 spinners, and respectfully, and again, everyone's doing this whole, you've got to show respect to Papua New Guinea. They played a good game. Respectfully, what were their spinners doing other than bowling wicket to wicket? We're supposed to have some of the most dangerous franchise-based T20 cricketers in the world, right? Santokie, how many commentators have you seen go, yeah, West Indies semi-finalists, West Indies semi-finalists? So respectfully, if everyone's putting that shine on West Indies, we're supposed to be able to deal with the most innocuous of spin, the Papua New Guinea were throwing at us. Respectfully to PNG, and respectfully to Sammy, and respectfully to our players, that type of spin, even if they were only expecting 1 guy, shouldn't have been causing us that level of trouble.
Yeah, and I think someone's put in the comment, Maz88, the commentator did say they left Hope out because they weren't expecting much spin to come from Papua New Guinea. So that suggests a misreading of the opposition. And as you said, Mash, we've known it's always been kryptonite for West Indies. When the draw was made, we did do a show where we said playing Afghanistan in St. Lucia is probably to avoid facing the spinners at Providence, where they're going to wreak havoc as well. So we've always known it's a weakness, but it's interesting that was the tactic as to why the commentators believe Hope was left out. Yeah,
but Santokie, remind everyone if they've forgotten, who's Papua New Guinea's assistant coach?
Yeah, exactly.
Uncle Phil. Uncle Phil said, you know what, dash spinners at this team. Dash bare slow bowlers and spinners at this team, and let's see what's going to happen. It can't be a coincidence. Uncle Phil would have known. Uncle Phil would have known.
It's true. But yeah, let's go on to the actual chase match. So we've called it without sounding a broken record. Johnson Charles, he gives you that 1 in 4, 1 in 5 epic innings where he hits a big score. He's go hard or go home. So unfortunately, the other 3 or 4 innings tend to be low scores. Today we saw him get a golden duck, LBW, was pretty plum. We're expecting that. It sounds like we're being negative. We're almost expecting that from Charles because of the odds of what we've seen in the past. However, Mash, 2 balls later, Pooran gets a LBW shout. It's not given. And it's interesting because on social media, they were saying, obviously, associate cricket, Papua New Guinea don't use DRS. So maybe that was why they were a bit panicked about, do we use it? Should we waste our review here? Because they haven't had experience of how to use DRS, that kind of thing. I mean, that might be a simplistic explanation, but it's also plausible as well, because they might have been thinking, let's not waste it. We've only got 2. If you've not had match experience of using DRS, replay showed during the rain interval, it was plum. Pooran was on 0 off 3 balls at that point. If Pooran had gone, Mash, because he went on he scored at a slow rate, but he still put up 27 in the context of this innings. That was a significant portion of runs. If Pooran goes early, Mash, West Indies are in deep, deep trouble, bearing in mind the batters that were coming after and how they struggled against Papua New Guinea.
Given how we saw how the game went down, even with Pooran not being given, or well, with PNG not reviewing, Pooran then went on to make 27, from 27, I think it was?
Yeah.
Right. So let's take Pooran's 27 away from it. Obviously, this is all hypotheticals.
Yeah.
Let's take Pooran's 27 away from it. We restart at 8 for 2. It wouldn't have surprised me if he went on to lose after that.
Yeah. Because it's
hypotheticals, but if we had come out with Pooran already gone, because remember, Pooran's one of the best players we've got at taking down spin.
Yeah.
He gets out to it quite a bit, but that's only because he backs himself to take it down, right? I think he hit maybe 2 or 3 sixes, can't remember. I think, yeah, even with Russell and Shepherd to still come, it could have been even closer if we'd come out at 8 for 2.
Yeah, literally. And Pooran, to be fair, first 10 balls, he struggled against the spin. And again, the commentators alluded to the fact that IPL, there's a lot of pace, so it's that adjustment. But we know the quality Pooran's had. He scored a brilliant century in CPL at Providence Stadium, where it's notoriously hard to do so. So we know the quality of Pooran against spin. But as you said, 27 off 27. So it was a mixed innings from him, but it was still significant in the context of the chase. So Pooran going, West Indies would have been in a lot of danger there. So again, it was a lifeline similar to that lifeline we got one time in the World Cup qualifiers against Scotland a few years ago. It was a lifeline that the umpire didn't give it out and Papua New Guinea didn't review, because that would have changed the complexion of the game. Now, King hit 34 off 29, but I felt King, let's see what Michael Douglas is saying. Charles has had 13 innings at Providence and hit 0 from 13. Not one good innings there, striking less at 100. Only have 2 6 there in his entire career. Now, Mash, this is an interesting one. If you're tactical, if you're on Sammy's coaching staff and you know a certain player struggles at a certain venue, do you persevere with it because they're a quality player? So the case of Johnson Charles, who struggles at Providence. Or do you just say, you know what, we can't play him at Providence because it's a bogey stadium for him. He's not going to do well. What's your sort of thinking on it? Do you play to the ground, or do you essentially back your player? Because at the same time, if you don't play Charles at Providence, you're basically saying, I don't trust you for all scenarios.
It's a very good question, and it's exactly the reason why I said that Shea Hope should have played today, because I do trust Shea Hope at Providence. I will maintain for the duration of this World Cup that it should be horses for courses, and that there are probably only, if I quickly go through the team, King, Pooran, Rovman, Multi, Dre and Shepherd. They're probably the only players in the team where you'd say you're playing every single game no matter what. I think everybody else should be in and out depending on what the situation is saying. There'll be some games where you might want Shamar. There might be some games where you want Obed. There might be a game where you want Hope in there. There might be a game where you want Hetty in there. I don't think we should be wedded to this idea of this is our best 11 and this is like today. Santokie was what I believe they think their best 11 is right now. This wasn't a horses for courses pick. This is our best 11 right now. Now you could say that the Chase pick was a horses for courses, but I genuinely believe they think that this is their best 11. Your first game, you play what you think your best 11 is. We've been told what our best 11 is, and as I think Machel said there, if Johnson isn't good in Providence, well, boy, he's got another game against Uganda probably to try and disprove that particular argument. Hold on, Santokie. We've got 576 people in the live, so big up everyone in the live. Like, share, subscribe, etc. 2, there were some super chats, so I better get to them.
Oh yeah, go on.
One was from Sagir Parker, who actually posted this and then went to bed. So he just said, big up Sagir. Hopefully you're watching this on the repeat. He said, would have loved to stay awake for this, but it's almost 3 a.m. here in Perth. I presume you are supporting PNG. Good luck to you guys and keep up the good work. So big up, Sagir. Thank you for the pre-show super chat contribution. Love that. Much appreciated, my guy. And then AB says, surely hope Hetty get a game soon. This World Cup won't be about power hitters. Actually, Santokie, coming on that afterwards about your point about what you tweeted about 3 months ago or 2 months ago during IPL. Surely hope Hetty get a game soon. This World Cup won't be about power hitters, but more so about batters who can anchor and play a situation. Thoughts? I'll give that to you, Santokie.
So what did I tweet about Hetty?
No, about average score in this World Cup.
Oh yeah. Well, what was that? What did I even tweet about? I'm going to refresh my.
So you tweeted about a month ago in the middle of the IPL. You said everyone's like wowing at the fact that there's scores of 200 plus in the IPL. By the time you get to the World Cup, the average score can be about 150.
Yeah. No, literally in the IPL, all the scores we saw so many scores over 200. And obviously, Machel, you'd known about this before. We knew, especially at Providence, we're going to get low scores, teams struggling to hit 150. And I think it will be the same at in Trinidad and Tobago in particular. I think we might see similar kind of thing there. Not sure about St. Vincent or St. Lucia, how they might play, but generally, you're not going to see many 200 plus scores at this World Cup. So this is about players who can anchor and play a situation. Now, if you'd have told me 4 or 5 years ago, can Hetty anchor and play a situation? I'd be like, yeah, he's perfect. He can play spin well. He plays that anchor role. Hetty in the last 2-3 years has predominantly played as that finisher who faces 6 to 12 balls. He's coming off an IPL where I think he only scored over 100 runs and he'd only faced minimal amount of balls, an average of 6 or 7 balls an innings, because he was coming in at 6-7 as that finisher. So for me, Hetty falls into that category of a power hitter because his most recent T20 action in the last few years has been as a finisher. So I don't know. I wouldn't trust him to be able to anchor a situation at the moment. He hasn't played in that role for West Indies in recent times. IPL, he's definitely not got that experience. So it's a big gamble to throw Hetty in there and rely on him to anchor the inning. So I think you're ruling Hetty out as being an anchor. Are you going to have Hetty as a power hitter? Obviously, the talk beforehand was, is Rutherford or Hetty going to make the squad? I think Rutherford offers a bit more versatility in terms of how he plays. However, it was a talking point on TV as well. He didn't play for Kolkata at all. He didn't play one single game in the IPL. So he's sort of been sitting there. Now, the argument is, do you back him based on his most recent form? We know that partnership he put on with, was it Dre Russ in Perth for Australia? 67 not out. We know what he can do. That was 3 months ago. He hasn't played any cricket subsequently in the IPL. So his form's going to be rusty. Do you back Rutherford to come good once he gets a few more game experience? Can you risk that with a World Cup where every game means so much? Can you risk playing Rutherford? Do you bring Hetty in as a finisher? There's a few questions there for Sammy, but I think Hope will definitely get a game soon. The fact that the logic has dictated they didn't play Hope because of the opposition suggests that he's still in the frame to get a call-up, probably in the next game against Uganda, but they were sort of going for matchups against Papua New Guinea and misread the situation.
Indeed, it's going to be very interesting to see what the Hope gets in, but who he gets in for. Well, maybe he doesn't get in, but if he does get in, who he gets in for will be very interesting. People, I just went on our metrics page to see what's going on. Like up the video, please, people. Like up the video. And also, our current subscribers is 8,734. Let's try push this. We're trying to push to 9K, 10K by the end of the World Cup, if we can, people. So let's push that. If you're one of the 581 people currently in this live, like up the vid and subscribe to the channel, please, people. Right, Santokie, last few talking points. So who we just talked about? 8 for 2, Puran. Okay. Can I just say this? I don't know if there's any associate fans in this live, particularly people who know about PNG cricket. If you are, please correct me when I say this next point. To get to this World Cup, Santokie, PNG had to beat Japan and Philippines. So what are we saying, Santokie? We're as good as Japan and what are we saying, Santokie? Like, Japan and Philippines must be serious, you know. There must be some serious teams, cuz.
Japan and Philippines.
I'm not even. You know what? I'm not even laughing and cussing about it. They beat Japan and Philippines to get to this World Cup. So what's that saying about us, Santokie?
Boy. You know what? I thought you were going to reel off like a long list of teams they had to beat to get to the qualifiers. Man said Japan and Philippines. And
Japan and Philippines. Japan and Philippines, you know. Japan and Philippines. We need to go play we need to go play what's it called when it's 4 teams in a series?
Quadrangular
series. We need to go play a quadrangular series between PNG, us, Japan, and the Philippines. See who comes on top, cuz. We need to go play that one and see what's going on.
It's like you said though, like a lot of the spin was pretty much it wasn't. It was just consistent. Basically, they just consistently They didn't generate much spin. It was consistent. However, that consistency is what rattled the West Indian players. I mean, King as well. King had a good start. He kind of gave the innings a bit of momentum and then lost his way, gave his wicket away. Rothman as well. I could see the intent from Rothman. He hit 2 hard hitting boundaries, but then when that edge came, I couldn't believe he reviewed it. I think you could hear that edge all the way in French Guyana across the border. It was a clear edge basically, and then Rutherford came out similar to Pooran. He sort of blocked out. He didn't know how to approach the innings, and because he gave his wicket where he only faced 7 balls and went out. So as you said, Mash, Roston Chase was the only one who could navigate and play the innings alongside Dre Russ. And I think the sense of urgency only came into West Indies when Dre Russ walked out. He was pushing for 2s hard, and you could see Papua New Guinea, because of that pressure, they've made a few mistakes. I know they missed one for a boundary. They were misthrowing it. That pressure just by Dre Russ pushing hard for 2 runs on the fielders had a big effect. And then Roston and him sort of finished it off with boundaries. So Roston was really the only one who played the situation. Dre Russ added some much needed and intensity. But generally, Mash, as we said on the show, just thought there was a lot of complacency. And I'm hoping against Uganda we don't see that.
Do you know what, actually, you saying that reminded me that I wanted to make that point. PNG only played badly. So they played badly in 2 phases for me. I say badly. In the power play, they were found wanting. It looked like the situation had overawed them at the beginning. That was the point of the match when we were at our most intense, right? Where we played with the level of intensity expected of a full member nation, and PNG couldn't cope with it in the power play. Maybe you could even argue in the first 10 overs, right? At the back end, when we were chasing, we had that one big over off might be in the left arm spinner, and they completely crumbled from that one. So when we finally put some pressure back on them, as should be the case, given that they're significantly weaker than us, they crumbled under the pressure, right? So this goes back to the point I've always made, and I've sometimes got criticism for, but I feel like I must make it again for West Indies fans down the sides and out the back who are hard of hearing. If we do not play to our absolute maximum levels and we drop it by 5%, any associate team can beat us, Santokie. Any associate team who comes and plays 100% at the best of their ability, as long as we drop it by 5, the games will always be close. We've seen it in the last 2-3 years. Scotland whoop us for fun. Netherlands whoop us for fun. Okay, Ireland, they're full member. They whoop us for fun. So let West Indies hear this. Sammy, if you're listening, hear this. These men have to play at 100% intensity because they are not good enough in any format of cricket to drop it by 5% against any associate side. Them, man, you see, the thing about associate teams, Santokie, that everyone always forgets is they play competitive cricket all the time. They're always in these World Cricket League 2 qualifier competition here. That's the one thing I will say about associate nations. They're used to having to win on a regular basis in competitive win-or-go-home competitions. So when they come to play teams like us who have a tendency to drop it by 5%, we often find that we come down to their level or they're matching our level because we come down to theirs so often, and that's why we get found. That's why we get found out. That's why we get found out, and that's not negative to me, Santokie. That's just facts. It's just facts. You man, up for intensity.
Sammy's gonna put that clip on a projector, and say, "Listen,
when I touch down in Trinidad for that test match, I know there's a couple cricketers gonna punch me in my stomach,
But Mash, I think it's also telling that, as you said, you hit the nail on the head with talking about intense situations, because for all the talk about we hit 225, was it 250 against Australia in Trinidad? Bearing in mind it was Australia side, I think they pulled in a couple fans from the street to play on the side. The coaches were playing. It wasn't a full Australia team. That was a warm-up game. We saw here, Mash, in over 7-11 of the chase.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what our run rate was?
I wrote it down. It was 2.75.
2.75 against Papua New Guinea.
Screen and I wrote it down immediately. 2.75.
Do you know how mad? 2.75 against Papua New Guinea. I don't care where you're playing, Providence, wherever, slow pitch. telling me you're hitting under 3 and over against Papua New Guinea. Do you know how mad that is? I don't know what. So for all the talk about bilaterals and warm-ups, it's good. Obviously, it builds momentum. That's how you find out what team works best, what players fit into the system. You build confidence. But you're coming out over 7-11, 2.75 against Papua New Guinea. You're the host and you're meant to set the marker down for the rest of the tournament. And you're struggling out here, 2.75. 20 minutes ago, Carlos Baffa on commentary was talking about finishing the game in 5 overs with the run rate. I don't understand.
Hold on, no. I need to address this. Because I need to address this. 2.7.
But I'm pretty sure, we can't play cricket. I'm pretty sure we would get up just around 2.75 if we batted at Providence, man. 2.75 is mad. For 4 overs as well, not even 1 over. Like, for 4, consistently, it averaged out to 2.75. Do you know how mad that is? Our most consistent pattern of innings was hitting 2.75. Shut the pod down, man. So yeah, like that kind of, for me, when I saw that,
I have to look away because people get angry with me and say, "Why am I laughing?" So,
no, but to be fair, we won the game still. It's all right, man. We won the game. But
a win is a win. A win is a win.
When I saw that statistic come up, I paused my TV. I had to pause it because I was like, "No, it can't be 2 for 4 overs. We batted under 3 runs and over." But then it adds up when you think we had 54 dot balls across the innings. So that's a massive warning sign, I think. And like I said, hopefully it's something we work on for the next game and the rest of the tournament.
Can I just say about the 2.75, though, that my only concern about the 2.75 is that we've spent, remember, Santokie, this actually goes back to, when was Super 50? Back end of, when was it again? Was it November-ish last year?
Yeah.
Right, so Super 50. Do you remember for Super 50 that we had, obviously, all the new kind of rules came out, and there's extra bonus points for batting at certain kind of run rates, extra bonus points for decreased dot ball percentage and all of that, right? My only concern about the 2.75 is we've been... So Wilson Mann says...
Yeah, this doesn't make sense because like 2.75 in 4 overs... It obviously is such a big deal because we almost lost the game. We had to hit 18 in the penultimate over to win the game. So it does play a fact. Obviously, I understand there'll be 1 or 2 overs where you don't score runs. But 4 overs, that's 1/5 of the chase. You're hitting under 3 runs and over. That's unacceptable.
It's not even just the fact it's in 4 overs. It's about who we're playing at the end of the day. Can people stop this? Wilson, you're included in this. Stop this. Stop this. You lot are talking as if we were playing Prime, Murali and Shane Warne. What are you lot talking about? Respectfully, what are you lot talking about? You're acting like we were facing some of the top bowlers in world cricket, cuz. Come on, man. Listen, the point here about the 2.75 is we've been trying to work on rotating strike. Remember, we've made a big deal of saying that overs 7 to overs 15 are difficult overs. We've been talking about this for a long time now in West Indies cricket. We get to the World Cup and we're still struggling in the middle overs to do better than 2.75 and over. And that's, as you said, Santokie, that's why the game was close, because these overs 7 to 11, you can't be against anybody. You can't be against anyone.
But I don't understand it.
No, sorry, Santokie, 1 sec. 2.75 is what I expect us to do in the modern era. If we were playing South Africa and Shamsi was bowling and we went at 2.75 against Shamsi, we couldn't get him off the square, I'd go, yeah, you know what? I've seen that before, so yeah, that makes sense. But again, respectfully, given who we were playing, it's unacceptable. That there is no way Darren Sammy is looking at that going, yeah, but it was a low, slow pitch. It was difficult to bat out there. PNG are one of the top teams in the world. It is what it is. Come on, man. Come on.
It don't make sense to me because we're talking about obviously winning the World Cup and West Indies doing well and all this stuff. And then at the same time, we're saying 2.75 against Papua New Guinea is acceptable for 4 overs. It just don't make sense, Mash. Like you said, when we weren't playing Prime Murali here, so 2.75 is unacceptable. Hopefully we don't see that again for the rest of the tournament. People will say we're being negative, but I think by any standards, to bet under to bet at 2.75 for 4 overs against Papua New Guinea is a low point. But as you said, Mash, a win is a win. We came out of it unscathed, really. We got the win, a wake-up call, and we move on to Uganda, 1:30 a.m. UK time on Sunday.
Yeah, and ultimately, let's end it that way. A win is a win. Like, we're going to end the show now, people. A win is a win at the end of the day. And I started the show by saying there's been plenty of examples I always use football. Santokie and I are massive football fans. I always use football as a reference point. Argentina won the last World Cup. They started with a defeat against Saudi Arabia. Nobody in world football expected that. Now, they could have, after that defeat, said, well, boy, Messi ain't winning another World Cup. Our World Cup is over. Instead, they looked at why they flopped in that first game, rejigged some things, got things sorted, went on to win the World Cup. Now, obviously, some of you are going to say in the chat, but West Indies don't have a Messi. Okay, I hear all that. But they had Messi when they lost to Saudi Arabia, is my point. Okay, they rejigged things, got it all sorted. So when Santokie and I are looking at this thing and looking at that thing and saying that could have been better, that could have been better, that was unacceptable. Listen, Santokie, honest truth. Everything that we have raised in this video, there is no way that Darren Sammy and Floyd Reefer and his backroom staff aren't also looking at the same thing. You don't think their stats men aren't looking at over 7 to 11 and going to Sammy and going, boy, we're in at 2.75 over 7 to 11, you know? So people, don't like the critique you want to give us. You better believe Sammy and his guys are also looking at the exact same numbers that we can see and are looking at it going, well, boy, we're going to have to do something about that. In fact, let me twist it this way. If Darren Sammy is given by his stats guy that West Indies went from over 7 to 11 at 2.75, and Sammy's response to that is to go, oh, don't worry, we'll be better next time, I would be very concerned. Yeah. I would be very concerned if the attitude to that is just to be like, well, it was Papua New Guinea. They bowled really well. It's all right. We'll be better next time. That will be a cause for concern. And it will be something they'll want to fix. Last thing, Santokie, because we didn't actually address this. Sorry, I thought we were done. Last thing. Assuming that was our best 11, or what the team or what the backroom staff believe is our best 11 at this point in time, is there anything that concerns you that was our first choice 11 with the ball? So first choice 11. That was our first choice bowling attack. Is there anything that... Do you just think they'll get better over time? Or is there anything that concerns you that like Shamar Joseph obviously is on the bench and Obed McCoy is on the bench? You have to assume that those 6 bowlers, Chase, Multi, Akil, Dre, Shepherd, and Alzari, are our 6 bowlers. Was there any point of today where you thought, against better teams, we could come unstuck with the ball?
To be honest, because it was Papua New Guinea and it wasn't a massive score, there wasn't any points where I thought I'm overly concerned. We could have been a bit more clinical, but there was nothing for me to say, like Alzari shouldn't be in the next game, for instance, because 136 at the end of the day wasn't a bad performance. We all assumed that West Indies would just chase it down pretty straightforward. So I think there were you could see a bit of rustiness, particularly with Moti. I thought Moti, he got licked in 1 over. Moti wasn't his usual efficient self. I know he got 1 wicket, but for me, nothing going forward. But I can imagine a scenario where they try to fit Obed McCoy in if we don't have enough penetration going forward, particularly against like a New Zealand, who I think we play after Uganda. But for me, the bowling attack wasn't a concern in this game, surprisingly. It was the batting was more of a concern. And I think that's where we'll see hope come in on Sunday. But we'll probably drop another video during the week about who we think should play against Uganda, because we said 40 minutes at the top of the show. We're coming up to an hour, as always. We could probably do another hour on the 11 for Uganda. So we'll probably do another video looking at that. But Mash, just quickly over to you. Were you concerned about anything bowling-wise?
I was concerned about the depth. I thought Alzari looked a bit rusty. I've always been concerned about, you and I spoke about it before the World Cup, Santokie, who's bowling our overs 16, 17, 18, 19 and 20. I'm still concerned. I'm not convinced yet. Obviously, there's more games to go in the World Cup, so we'll see how they do. I'm not convinced yet that we have a deft bowling attack that can close out games or maybe win tight games, but we'll see. We don't know. Team will get better, I hope. So I'm still worried. I'm still worried about the death bowling. Multi, not concerned about. If that's an off day for Gudakesh Multi, then that's fine.
Yeah.
I just think, Santokie, Obed and Shamar Joseph, on paper, certainly Obed, are wicket-taking bowlers, or in Shamar's case, has an X factor with his pace. As we go through the tournament, there's going to constantly be questions about, is this the best bowling configuration? But the problem will be, Santokie, is to get one of those two in, you're going to have the eternal crisis of who drops out for one of those two faster bowlers, or medium, quick and fast bowler to get in. So, but we'll have that debate. Like you say, we'll have that debate as and when it comes. But people, fundamentally, we end how we started. West Indies won. We've got our first points on the board. We've got a week off now. Our next game is against Uganda next Sunday, 1:30 a.m. in the morning UK time, which obviously worked that out for wherever you are in the world. Before then, Santokie and I will probably drop something, maybe looking at who should start against Uganda once we've had a few days to kind of deconstruct it all. But West Indies, we're up and running. Let's hope we can continue the momentum, and let's hope we can go on to have an exceptionally good World Cup. Final thing, Santokie, before I let you finish it off. I should have said at the beginning, big up Devon, people. This new layout that you see around me in Santokie, it's our World Cup one. Devon did the design, so you can see the different flags. We haven't got all of the nations in the Caribbean, but we tried to fit as many of them in as we could. So big up Devon. He did the design. This is our World Cup design. As ever, with the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, you can find us on Instagram, X, TikTok, Patreon, Facebook, Discord, and the website as well, www.caribbeancricketpodcast.com. Just search Caribbean Cricket Podcast. You'll find all the different handles and channels, etc., etc. But big up everyone who was in the live today. At one point, I think it was 630. Big up everyone. Big up the West Indies fan base. Big up the West Indies team. We got the W. Big up Darren Sammy and all of his guys and women in the backroom staff. And we keep moving. Santokie, last words to you.
Yeah, shout out Devon, as you said. He's rightfully put Guyana's flag front row and centre there, the Mecca of West Indian cricket. So we have to call today miracle at the Mecca. And Mash, as you said, a lot of people say we're negative, but as always, we rally behind West Indies cricket. You've got the West Indies hat, you've got the shirt behind you, I've got the shirt on today. So we'll rally as always, middle of the night against Uganda, we'll be there rallying. So stay tuned, guys, for some more content coming ahead of the week. And thank you, everyone, for joining in. We did this short notice, but over 600 of you joining in live. So thank you so much. Obviously, if you've missed it, you're watching us on repeat, drop a comment and we'll try to address it. And never a dull day in West Indies cricket. So stay tuned for the next video that we drop during the week.
Peace, people.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.